everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. This is going to be the astro weather for November 12th through the 19th. And obviously this is going to really be touching on Mars in Scorpio in opposition to Uranus in Taurus. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you click the bell button below, give me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment. Let me know how you're feeling with these energies. Oh my goodness. Well, I specifically wanted to wait and do this video today, primarily because there's been so many other ingresses with Venus and Mercury, and I've touched on this quite a bit, but this energy is going to be felt so strongly this week. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about why. I'm going to give you guys my hot takes on what this aspect generally means and what we might be experiencing collectively. And if you stay tuned till the end, I will take it through the 12 signs and I will be discussing Mars in opposition to Uranus and how it's affecting all of the signs to give you guys a heads up. But likely as you're waking up this morning, you're already feeling it. It's been building over the weekend. So this particular aspect, okay, Mars in opposition to Uranus, this is going to be affecting my Aries and my Scorpio risings very strongly because Mars rules your chart. So pay attention, but also special mention to 20 to 22 degrees of the fixed signs. So Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius, you guys are going to be feeling all of this, not necessarily just the Mars ruled charts. Equally, if you have any fixed like planets at those degrees, you'll be feeling the crunch of the Mars opposition. And then also Aquarius risings, I threw you guys into the mix as well due to the nature of Mars opposing your modern day chart ruler, Uranus. Well, guys, I want to start with you first talking a little bit about the Sabian symbols. So when we see this opposition come through between Mars and Uranus, it's happening at 21 degrees. I have read you guys 22 degrees of Taurus quite a bit, the bridge over troubled water, right? I've made that reference. But I'd like to read to you the Sabian symbol for 22 of Scorpio. So let's take a look at that. All right, so the reason why we're reading 22 degrees is because the opposition is at 21. So because it's not exactly 21, we're going to be reading 22 degrees of Scorpio. This is page 265 of the Sabian Symbols book. And it is hunters starting out for ducks. The keyword is enterprise. The theme is the shortest path to the goal. The symbol speaks to the directness, aims, and goals, and to a mission and strong sense of purpose. The image of hunters hunting out for ducks emphasizes initiative, ambition, and aggression. But it also suggests lack of restriction, freedom from physical or from psychological pressure. On a practical level, the symbol can indicate a team approach to meeting objectives. At positive, its highest, the symbol represents enterprising do-it-yourself quality and the ability to relieve stress and tension in a healthy, productive way. Watch for overkill or ruthless optimism. The accent is on accomplishing objectives. You may be unusually determined to reach some goal today and put an end to something. Your greatest advantage lies in sticking to your guns and letting nothing deter you. Make sure you start on time. Guard against failing to take aim before you fire. You might hit the wrong target. Don't forget that words can also wound. Stepping stones would be ambition, aggression, force, aspiration, enthusiasm, expectation, initiative, purpose, and goal orientation. So interesting. I mean, it's Mars, right? It's like it's interesting the connection that they're talking about of like literally hunting because Mars can be connected to that. And it's at his home sign in Scorpio. So taking aggressive action, moving forward, being able to, set out to do something, but also that might lead to limitation or being overkill or being like too heavy-handed. I liken this maybe to the fact that 21 degrees is about growth and development, and where something suddenly becomes larger than life or, the tension builds. And then 22 degrees represents the need to also practice a sense of form, right? 22 is like connected to Saturn. It's connected to Capricorn. So, timing predictions, market predictions, timelines, things that you're committing to, and like really setting your sights on the right target and not feeling rushed. you guys are going to be feeling rushed this week, okay? With Mars, Uranus, we feel like we're in a pressure cooker, and others situations or people outside of us can really pressure us or push us to make a move. Now, referencing back that 21 degrees, if you guys remember, which would be the Sabian symbol for 22, white dove over troubled waters. This is about guidance, a higher call. The symbol speaks to the fact that every individual comes into this world with a spiritual mission. And the image of a white dove over troubled water is about divine protection and triumph over spirit, over matter, peace of mind, and the ability to transcend emotional turmoil and psychological stress. Implicit in this symbol is the freedom and strength can be gained through listening to the inner voice for guidance and direction. The suggestion here is that the individual knows the purpose and set out to fulfill will succeed. On a practical level, it can represent peace or an end to a war, dissension or enmity or conflict. At its highest, it represents a strong sense of personal destiny and the ability to rise above superficial difficulties and keep focused on the goal until it's achieved. The accent is on rising above difficulties and emotional stress. And stepping stones would be guidance, direct message, advice, help, transcendence, protection, mission, and peace. After all, that's what Taurus wants, right? Regardless of what Uranus is doing, Taurus wants peace. This is a sign that is ruled by Venus. It wants pleasure. It wants security. It wants calmness. And Mars, well, Mars just wants to fight this week. So we're definitely going to see a lot of stirring the pot, pressure going on with agitation, frustration, kind of, things coming to the surface, which could be disrupting the peace. But the beauty of oppositions, at least my perspective as a modern astrologer, I don't always share the same belief that oppositions are, negative or impossible to overcome. I think oppositions provide opportunities that we're going to learn a lot about peace through conflict. We're going to learn a lot about patience through impatience. We're going to learn a lot about love through hate, unfortunately. So this is going to be a week to observe and make the conscious choice to be able to overcome or supersede some of these negative energies with faith, love, optimism, pleasure, joy, and being like this almost like immovable force for unconditional love and support. That's really what we want to be doing with all of these placements. You might not be somebody you might be spiritual, especially if you're into astrology. You may not necessarily subscribe to, organized religion or practices. But I think that prayer or intention or reflection or meditation, they're all similar frequencies. Jupiter is about prayer. So something that can be really, important this week is setting intentions, praying, getting grounded, and really going through the motions of whatever we need to do to kind of keep us stable so we're not as easily kind of rattled, because boy, oh boy, Uranus oppositions, they do rattle us a little bit. Now, both of these happening at 21 degrees is really fascinating for a number of reasons, because that's a really big degree that we're going to be seeing next spring. But I want to remind you guys of my laundry list here from Nicola's book about Sagittarius degrees. And I read directly from the book specifically because I've had so many people comment, email me, message me about this book. So I'm going to make this statement now. Unfortunately, Nicola has passed, as did his wife, who helped me personally purchase this book some years ago. People keep asking where the book is. I don't know. I heard supposedly, I think it was something that Lotta said in a video, that they were talking about trying to get this published. So I don't know if that's happening or not. I hope that's the case, because I know many of you guys want to get your hands on this. And also he did 70 astrological questions with answers. That's his second book. I'm looking at my bookshelf. And so both of these are not really in print. So the reason why I share this on my channel is because I think that a lot of people could really learn astrology and utilize this with his insights. So I'm going to read to you what 21 degrees means according to Nicola. So if you guys follow the degree method, 21 is a Sagittarius degree, right? So it's going to have that theme tied to it, but it's expressed through Scorpio, right? Pluto, Mars, death, regeneration, sex, fear, passion, control, power, or Taurus, which is about stability, resources, finances, banking, food, farmers, physical, material things. This opposition, I want you guys to think of as a tug of war, right? I know it's a word that you guys probably don't want to hear right now, but this tug of war that's kind of going on this week is going to be very, very, very obvious. And it will express itself in a variety of Sagittarian ways. So for Sagittarius, which is 9 or 21 degrees, we see foreign countries, everything foreign, foreign state, foreigners, and abroad. Highways, main streets, boulevards, avenues, everything large, big, broad, or extended. Horses, horseback riding, stables or horseback, tennis, tennis players, tennis courts, long legs, hips, thigh bone, modeling, female fashion, fashion show, publishing, publishing books, journals, film, art, cinema, video rental, religion, a priest or of religious nature, colonel or general, voyages, tourism, travel agencies, higher education, university students, studies, during studies, and professors, wholesale, import, export, borders, or at the border, okay? So these are the themes that we are going to be hearing about. Now, Mars can be about attacking. Mars can be about action, motivation, movement. And Uranus is about sudden, unexpected. It's about the masses. It's about the banking system because it's in the sign of Taurus. This is about groups of people. This is also about cattle and much, much, much more. But we are going to see with these oppositions, it's not purely just the moment that we have the opposition. You guys started feeling it Friday. It happened yesterday. It's still taking place this week. But it's important because this particular degree is also going to be baked into the new moon in Scorpio, which we have coming up. You're going to see a lunar activation with that. So you're going to see that there's really an oomph behind some of your new moon intentions. And 6 months from now, in spring of 2024, you will see Jupiter and Uranus align at this degree. So this is such a pivotal week for everybody, both for you and your intentions and what you're doing, but also for the world, because we're going to see some really rocking and rolling energies that are going to set in motion some really, really big physical, financial changes 6 months from now. Now let's break it down, right? We've got Mars in Scorpio. So, Mars is the planet of action, energy, and drive. Scorpio is a fixed water sign with intensity, passion, and transformation. The traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars, so it's at home in the sign, and it also has associations with Pluto. Now, what you will notice is throughout this transit, Mars is building into a sextile with Pluto, so it's almost giving way to what Pluto is trying to accomplish. Now, Uranus in Taurus, this is a planet of innovation, change, and transformation. It is about unpredictability, going against the grain, being a little rebellious. And Taurus is about stability, material resources, and sensuality. I also think this is about like biofrequency, our physical body frequencies. It could be about the internet. It could be about literal power outages. I've seen throughout these transits in my own life, because I have Mars in Scorpio and I remember the Uranus opposition, but also throughout other clients' charts and in transit, where usually when we see this opposition, there is some situation that comes about where we are just needing freedom, right? We just need freedom. Uranus just wants to break free. It's not comfortable in Taurus because it doesn't make change unless it absolutely has to. Taurus is like a rock or a stone. It has to be kind of pushed into something, so it can take some time for it to finally break. But Mars is sudden and quick, and it almost like jumps in and like pierces something. So it can bring something up very quickly, a conflict, an argument, something that forces Uranus to change. This is why I'm calling this freedom by force. Now, obviously, this is a hot topic around the world right now, whether it's financial freedom, freedom when it comes to moving around, freedom when it comes to communication and speaking your mind, freedom when it comes also to the control that we have over money, resources, and our tax dollars. With an opposition, you're going to see that this is 180 degrees. I think that this is challenging, and it definitely indicates conflict and tension. But I also feel like it's showing us it's almost like certain hands are being revealed this week. People's ulterior motives or their truth, or where they're doing things that can be secretive or kind of cunning or kind of daring. It's all going to kind of start to come up, and we're going to start to see it a little bit more clearly. Like I said, oppositions are relational. So, some outside force or something outside of your control will be challenging you. And I say it will be because, Mars rules the North Node. So we really have to pay attention to Mars transits. It's so important because it's really painting a picture about what we need to break away from to be more North Node in Aries, courageous, daring, independent, self-sufficient, and I think free to do what we want to do. But it can also kind of stoke the flames a little bit and bring some tension to where people are more readily willing to fight or have conflict. So as you go through this week, you want to be mindful of that. Something else that I was thinking about is that this is not going to be something that's just taking place for, 2 or 3 days. Maybe you guys have been feeling it leading up to the actual transit that happened last night. But because this is going to be baked into that new moon in Scorpio that we're going to be having on the 13th. So remember that when we have a new moon, the aspects will play out pretty much for about a 28-day period until we come to the next new moon. Maybe it's highlighted during the time of the full moon, which you guys will for sure see in my full moon in Gemini video on Tuesday. But I think that there is some kind of wild flare up that comes about that once we get to the full moon in Gemini in 2 weeks, there is some limitation or slowing of something or trying to kind of block some of our wills or some of our communication. Now, something else you guys want to be thinking about is these possible themes, okay? So a few possible themes. Basically, when we see Mars in Scorpio, this is an energy that is about intense desires. It's about transformation and action. And Taurus is about the need for stability. So it's almost like on a deep emotional, psychological, financial, sexual level, there needs to be some kind of release, right? And so however that plays out for you or in the world, I remember these transits when Mars was in opposition to Uranus in my chart, and it just like hot meltdowns, just getting angry, getting upset, yelling at somebody, not really knowing how to kind of deal with the energy. And then the more that I studied the chart, and I realized it had more to do with holding something back, not being open and upfront about my feelings, not processing my feelings, keeping it too private. It did bring about some kind of like explosive, volcanic, like anger and reactions. So it is possible, and it's going to be different for all of you guys in your charts. You're going to want to look at where Scorpio is, and you're going to want to look at where Taurus is. The action in the Scorpio area of your chart is like coming up very abruptly, whether it's this weekend into the beginning of this next week, or it's over the next month. That is forcing some kind of leveling up, evolution, or change, especially for you in the Taurus area of your life, okay? So you have to look at where Taurus is. I get the impression that we're really in for a month ahead where we're going to be feeling a strong urge to break free from constraints or routine, while simultaneously feeling a push to dive deep into emotional or transformative experiences. What is Scorpio? Death, sex, regeneration, right? But it's also credit, it's debt, it's fear of transformation, it's fear of getting hurt, of being vulnerable, being exposed. It's afraid to look at the dirty side of things, the shadow side of life, and oftentimes the lesson of going from Scorpio to Sagittarius is learning to let something transition or learning to let something go and having a little bit of faith. So we have to take action around some of these topics right now. I'm optimistic that it's going to be for the best, but I also know that this aspect can manifest as sudden, unexpected events, especially relating to power dynamics, resources, or intimate relationships. So you guys you're gonna feel that. I think that the impact that it could potentially have, in your life can be extremely dramatic. Scorpio is in a much stronger position for Mars than an unhappy Uranus retrograde. We will see throughout the week that Mars will then start coming into a quincunx or an inconjunct with the North Node. So I'm pretty confident that there will be a number of situations where people are going to go, why did this end? Why couldn't I get the loan? Why did the job end? Why did the relationship fall apart? Why weren't they honest with me? Why did the power get turned off? Why can't I get money out of my checking account? What's going on with my investments? Where did this thing go? And it's going to seem shocking and it's going to seem surprising. But I promise you that the inconjunct is really saying it's pushing everybody to kind of learn how to adapt and how to bounce back and be more self-sufficient. So you don't want to just look at, you know, Taurus and Scorpio. This is where the action is. But whatever's dying off here and being reborn with the Cazimi is setting you up to have a fresh new start, which many of us won't really see until closer to spring of next year as planets come through Aries, and then we see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Now, you know, something that I keep thinking about is just how this is going to lead to a number of people who are feeling like there are events that are forceful and that are being kind of pushed upon them, or that they have no other choice but to, you know, kind of like learn to let something go. You guys can choose what you want to do with this energy. You know, people who are not always conscious or aware of why these events are happening may take the path of being defiant, rebellious, or explosive, violent, or reactionary. And I want you to be mindful that that's going to be in the world. And I don't say that to scare you. I'm just letting you know that you're going to be seeing some people who are going to be very difficult to deal with, who might have temper tantrums and, you know, moments where they are angry and throwing things and kind of having a meltdown. That's kind of what Mars-Uranus does. And Mars is a planet that deals with war, fire, right? Mars is like the matchstick that's going to be thrown into a situation that's going to make Uranus just totally blow up over the next 6 months. And it can be a powerful thing where we can go, okay, this is done. Like, I'm done with this thing. I'm really finally cutting this thing out. I'm focusing on the future. That's Uranus. I've talked a lot about this, not just in my new moon video, but you guys can go back and you can look at my Pluto and Aquarius video. You guys can look at my Mars, you know, Uranus North Node conjunction video that I did. And I talk so much about how there is a huge change coming to the financial system. The more that I think about this, I'm like, yeah, it's in the next 6 months. You know, you're not hearing about this on the mainstream headlines, but apparently, like, the United States, like, debt and our, like, interest rates are now at an all-time high. It's like hitting $1 trillion. It's going to have a huge, I think, impact on cash. I look at Mars and Scorpio, which can be war or attacks on what, you know, Uranus and Taurus. This is going to be about cash. You're going to see over the next 6 months, I think, a real revving up of, this is why we can't have it. This is why we're not accepting it. This is why you can't pay for things with cash. Or, laws and regulations revolving around cash. From what I understand, there's some countries, I think it's the UK, that you cannot transact any more than $1,000 on purchases or goods. Can you guys confirm that? But that's what I hear. Right now, that's not happening in the United States, but you never know. We could definitely be next. And I think that you're going to see lots of conflict going on with the banking systems because Scorpio is conflict. It is about crisis. So these crises that are coming through are going to challenge some of the financial systems, and you're going to possibly see something new emerge. Now, something else in the back of my mind is that we've got a Mars Cazimi that's getting ready to set up. You know, Mars Cazimis occur when Mars is in a very tight conjunction to the sun. It'll be in a superior position, so it's going to pull in front of the sun. Everybody keeps asking me, well, are you worried about Mars opposed Uranus? Well, as I'm filming this, it's before the opposition happens, so we'll see. But I keep telling everybody, no, I'm actually more concerned about the Mars Cazimi. And that in 6 months' time, that'll really kind of show its hand and show us what the intention was. Some of these dealings in Scorpio are going to be secretive. They're going to be underhanded, or they're going to be very skilled at doing things behind the scenes and orchestrating things behind the scenes before we become aware of the physical manifestations of some of these events. In my mind, even though it's a superior position, I think about the degree that that's happening at, and that it is re-triggering that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the spring of 2024. On the other hand, I'm like, hey, you know what? This can be really positive. You know, pretty much from November 11th all the way through the 22nd of this month, we're going to see Mars and the Sun in close conjunction together. So they're moving closely together. Even after the conjunction, you're going to still see them side by side. And this brings intense energy, pushing for courage, for passion, for vitality, for achieving some kind of goal. Will we see military mobilizations? Likely. Will we see, you know, big changes going on with interest rates, also with loans and debt? Absolutely, because Scorpio in the 8th house is where people come to collect. So collecting physical things, jobs and other, resources, whether or not people are going to be able to get support, financial support. I think we're also going to see a lot of people that are going to be defaulting on loans and on debt. So you're going to see them going after physical resources. So whether this is like cars getting repoed or, possessions being taken, or there being, liens against houses, unfortunately, that is kind of an indication of what's coming in the spring of 2024. I'm not a financial advisor. I have no background in economics. I just read astrology. But from what I understand, with some of the news that's coming out about the dollar and the fact that that's really crumbling right now, some experts are saying that we'd be lucky if we make it to the new year before we start to really see a decline. There's already talk of there being a recession in 2024, but to be honest with you, I think it could be much bigger than that. Now, when Mars is in a cazimi, right, or in conjunction, but specifically the cazimi, which we're going to see this week, it's a period of intensified Martian energies. So because Mars represents assertiveness, desire, the sun coming into conjunction will enhance the characteristics. So it's seen as a time where we're more so driven. And what is Scorpio? To dig to the bottom of something, to find the truth, to initiate some kind of change. I think any which way you slice it, that conjunction, the new moon in Scorpio, oppositions to Uranus, in conjunctions to the North Node, this week is the time where we dig deep and go, I have to cut this thing out. I have to make this change. I have to be willing to face the music. I have to overcome this fear. I have to deal with the skeleton in the closet. It almost still feels like Halloween-y to me, even though we're in November, but these are some particularly frightful aspects. And it's going to be a little bit stronger than usual because, like I said, the North Node is in Aries. Now, let's see. I want everybody to remember this phrase. If there's any takeaway from this also, remember this. Because this is what's happening at this time. At some point in this next lunar cycle, it might take about a month. There will be crises that are created, okay? Because, when the sun comes into conjunction with Mars, it's dying and being reborn, right? So it's being reborn in a new phase, Scorpio. What is the dispositor of all this energy? Pluto, control, power, money. I think we're about to see an insane wealth transfer. If you guys think we've seen some stuff over the last 3 years, you're going to see some bigger ones in this next 6 months. But I also feel like this is an opportunity to look at some of the things that are kind of tower moments right now in our own lives, but also out in the world, and go, okay, this is happening for a reason. Why is it happening? Now, some crises, I think, will be created artificially. I say that because Uranus deals with things that are artificial. There's a reason, since Uranus has been in Taurus, we've seen an uptick of artificial meat, lab-grown chicken. We're seeing people altering their bodies like never before. We're seeing all kinds of new modifications of food and cryptocurrencies and money. These are all Uranian concepts in the sign of Taurus. But there will be crisis that's created, which then we will have solutions sold to us, okay? So this is sell, this is buy. So you're gonna see a lot of people that are gonna be panic selling something. It could be stocks, it could be their houses, it could be their cars, it could be anything they can get their hands on, things that they're trying to recycle, stuff that they have that they wanna get rid of at a garage sale, whatever. Trying to panic sell something. Why? Well, because of some crisis that's likely kind of brewing in the world. But it also could mean that there is chaos, or there is, some scary situation when it comes to debt and loans. There's a liquidation issue, right? We're being told there's X amount of money that there is, out in the banking systems, and that number is wildly different than what is actually in circulation. So much money has been printed, it's been created. We're seeing so many issues with inflation and just the loss of the value of the dollar. So what this is going to be is some crisis that is being kind of cooked up. Why? So we buy the solution. And Jupiter will be in Taurus next year, so it'll be like everything's great and it's abundant and it'll be good. And you want to, to take what's being offered to you. But I think it might be like a carrot that's being kind of dangled on the end of a string. I think it might be a moment where there is some temptation to grab something and you might get stuck in it. I'm thinking it's going to be like universal basic income. I'm thinking that it's going to be CBDCs. I'm thinking that it's going to be digital IDs and wallets. What an amazing time to be a conspiracy theorist right now, because we've been hearing all of these fears or conspiracies about digital IDs. Oh, digital IDs. And everybody's going like, that's not a thing. This week, Europe has announced that they are moving to a digital ID. Don't believe me? Go and look at it. Although Google probably won't put it on the first page of your Google search. But if you do some research, you'll find that they are actually moving to do this. Apparently, it's got to be voted through, so it's not a sure shoo-in yet. But this is basically going to be creating a situation where everybody's going to be given these digital IDs. Will it be tied to a social credit score? I don't know. But there is going to be some incentive once you have that wallet, which may be tied to your health. It may be tied to your finances. It may be kind of accessible or controlled or manipulated. We don't know. We know that CBDs can do that. But there's going to be this push to be like, well, we got to put something on your wallet. Watch out for this, guys, okay? This is going to be all of the tricks that are going to come in from trying to kind of funnel people into this new system. So when you start to see economic collapse, crisis, people in need, people fighting, you're going to see there's a solution. And I would be weary of the solutions that are being given. Now, the positive side here, okay, because there is a positive, is that if we look at some of the breakdowns and some of the things that are falling apart or the crisis that's manifesting in our life, we can see it as an opportunity, right? Opposition to be like, I'm exiting the system. I'm quitting my job. I'm leaving this relationship. You know, I'm relocating. I'm moving. There's big changes that are going to come from this. So if you're willing to kind of go deeper into that void, right, or fear, and really recognize it as something that is falling apart because it's actually probably poisonous or it's not good for us, or, you know, it's creating too much strife or too much conflict, we will be better prepared for spring of 2024 when we see these two conjunctions together. Because after all, Jupiter conjunct Uranus and Taurus can be sudden wealth. It could be a wealth of freedom. It could be a wealth of resources, of land, of food, of money. But I think it's going to be built off of some of the changes that we make very quickly right now. It would be a really good idea for you to start researching and doing some research about what's going on globally with the financial system. Not just what's happening, you know, and what you hear on the news. Go and actually listen to a variety of different kind of, you know, financial people. Do your research, I guess, and really kind of see what trends or patterns are happening in other places. It'll give you a more worldly idea of why we are seeing this kind of breakdown across the board and this almost like dissolving of the dollar. Not that the dollar is the most important currency. I really want to reiterate that because I'm an American. I know that there's a ton of other currencies out there, but the reality of the situation is that because the dollar has pretty much dominated, right, since the war, we've been in a situation where everyone is kind of looking at what the dollar does, and that has a ripple effect on other, you know, economies. So right now it could be that there is like a breakaway that's happening from some financial systems. Why? Well, Jupiter and Uranus can represent greed. As we start to see small banks fall apart, we're going to start to see larger banks that are going to be consuming them, and the gap in options are going to definitely narrow. But I think we're also going to see even more wealth inequality, and we're going to see people who are going to be really, really in need. But you can take this opportunity now to go and do your research and reimagine what it means to be wealthy and what freedom means, and move some stuff around. Now, you know, I think so much of what I'm saying might sound crazy right now. It'll make sense next year. You'll realize, especially when new laws, right, Jupiter, are arising over Taurus-related things like land, banks, currency, food, your body even. Then I think of like how, you know, how Scorpio at 21 degrees, it has a specific connection to being known for being slightly dangerous. It can deal with lack of self-control, being impulsive, but also it has connections and dangers of poisoning. 22 degrees of Taurus, where we're going to see the Sabian symbol get activated with this conjunction, is connected to collapse, misfortune, dangerous situations. So, you know, when this new moon comes in, right? Let me show you guys the new moon. When this new moon comes in, there we go. Okay. In Scorpio, it's seeding something, which will take about 6 months to fully become unveiled. All right. So here we go. 20 degrees, new moon. And that's going to be in opposition to Uranus, opposition to that 22 degrees, which I do think is about something breaking down. We're going to find out that if we were too impulsive or if we did things that were too dangerous or too risky, potentially it's getting us into some really hot water about spring of next year. Now, this new moon, which is ruled by Mars, right? Mars is at 22. Is going to be about exposing things that need to come to the surface. Anger, resentment, fears, secret passions at 22 within politics, within government, within systems and top-down structures. The other ruler of Scorpio is Pluto. And we've got Pluto that's not really doing much. Pluto's direct now, so that's the other thing, you know, and through the rest of Scorpio season, you'll begin to start seeing planets coming into a sextile with Pluto. So I do feel like, you know, Capricorn and Pluto, you know, these two signs deal a lot with power and control. We'll also see a Venus square Pluto throughout this cycle as well. And that's also going to be a further kind of change and breakdown in regards to relationships and value systems. Now, with this new moon, we've got a new moon that's within a 4-degree orb of an in conjunct to the North Node. We've got Mars in conjunct to the North Node. So watch for those shocks and surprises. Likely you'll see just after the new moon when the moon comes into conjunction with Mars, that's when there's something that's happening suddenly. And the events here that take place this week, like I said, are going to be affecting us in spring of next year. Now, what could happen when we have the moon in conjunction to Mars in opposition to Uranus? Well, I mean, mass casualty events, fires, explosions. We're going to hear more about culling of herds, especially cattle, which I know is happening because Taurus is cattle. Financial crisis, death, loss, but also I think of attacks and I think of needles, weapons and war, hot tempers and things that are taking place right now to take control over food, resources, or land. What do I think it's going to result in personally? Lack of food and resources, and what is being offered is going to be other options like, lab-grown meat, dietary options that may not be the most ideal. I think this is definitely going to be an attack on farmers, on dairy, on hunting, on game type of meats. That could be happening because Uranus is wild. I do think that this is the setup for some potential war-like action that's making a lot of people money next year, but it's also bringing higher cost of inflation. It's also bringing more expensive travel. It's going to be also bringing shortages of certain supplies, which is going to increase the price, and then we're going to see higher food prices. Taurus is not just meat. It might be about physical materials. Uranus is also gas. So I do think that we're going to see some sudden fluctuations going on. I am aware that in Europe we're going into the winter and it's going to be a cold winter for a lot of people post what happened with the Nord Stream pipeline. The more research I'm doing, I've been digging into what the deal is. From what I understand, there's supposed to be some gas, from what I understand, okay? I've heard that there are some gas contracts that are in the Middle East, and those contracts are supposedly going to be up in 2024, and that there's talk that part of the tension in the Middle East is really over controlling some of those natural resources so they are not being allocated to other countries. And so that would make sense. Just looking at the astrology, it's like, let's start a ruckus so that way, we have control and possession, Taurus, over natural resources or gas. Does that mean that that's what's happening? No, but I could see that. I could definitely see that. Banking shocks, currency changes, sudden unexpected growth, a global revolution, lawsuits, rights, resources globally. You don't believe me? Let's look at April 2024. I'm going to show you guys how this is going to manifest. So We are going to have the Sun-Mars conjunction. And this is where the cazimi is going to take place. Okay, where is it? There we go. So it's going to happen sometime around the 17th. Some people say 17 minutes. Some people work with 1 degree. We're kind of splitting hairs here, but let's just say it's around the 17th. And this is where the Sun and Mars will come into conjunction for the cazimi. Will you see something immediately? Maybe. But remember, even though Mars is about pushing buttons and doing something quickly, it's calculated in Scorpio and it's secret. So it's about making secret moves. So this is the conjunction date. It's going to take about 6 months for this to unfold. Watch what happens in 6 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So what's going on here? Well, look at this volume of planets in Taurus, right? So we see the Sun conjunct Uranus. So that's going to be about sudden unexpected changes. Venus conjunct Uranus, sudden fluctuations and changes with money. Sun conjunct Jupiter, okay? What's the dispositor of all of this? Venus. Where's Venus? She's hanging out next to Uranus. Mark my words. The things that are happening from about mid-April through the end of May of 2024 is likely going to be a collapse of the financial system. And it's also going to be, oh, there's this crisis going on. You want food, you want power, you want this. Enter into this system. Use this new digital ID. Accept this CBDC. Use Fed now. I'm not encouraging you guys to do this. Go and do your own research. But also, this can be about opportunities for wealth, opportunities for self-sustainability, opportunities for independence. And wealth is not really looking wealthy in a sense of physical material goods, although Taurus, can be that. I'm thinking food. I'm thinking about where people have made investments in digital currencies, where people have made investments also in some new banking opportunities, crowd sharing. I don't know. It's going to be some crazy stuff. But this is going to be, I think, the turning point. And that's just purely 6 months from that date. Now, if we go back in time, I guess if we go forward in time, but we're going to go back a little bit, we're not going to see Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction until around the 3rd week of April. So this conjunction will happen right around here. Okay, actually it'll be at 21, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So it looks like it's going to be right around like 420. Cue the jokes. But we're going to have on 420, 2023, Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction. And so for me, I keep thinking about that Sabian symbol of staying united, knowing your path, knowing your purpose, doing what you're supposed to do, which is why we may see some people break in ranks the next few months and say, no, I'm not going to be a part of this crazy thing. Or no, I'm not going to starve people, or I'm not going to harm people, or I'm not going to rob people, whatever. But when this conjunction happens on April 20th, the ruler, right, or the dispositor, I guess I should say, of both of these planets is Venus. So look at Venus. Venus is in her fall in Aries, and Mercury is retrograding over Venus, which means a lot of people are going, what do you mean my money's not in the bank? What do you mean I can't have access to something? What do you mean this thing is changing? And it will be too late. It'll be too late. The things that are going on right now, people need to wake up to, because generally humans don't want to change unless it's painful or things have become too hard, or, finally they have to take the time to kind of learn or understand something. I think of the elections that are going on and that they're going to try to push this stuff through the EU. As an American, I'm watching this stuff and I'm hoping that people who are there are contacting their prime ministers or whoever they need to, writing into somebody to be like, I do not want this. Because the United States will follow suit. And even though we're hearing stuff right now about the United States and, propositions to be like, oh, we're not going to do CBDCs and we're not doing this or we're not doing that, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. They're saying that, but the problem is that they're calling it CBDCs. What they're not telling you is that they're trying to block that, but really it's going to go through Fed now. So if you guys are aware, I've been talking about Fed now off and on the last year about how they're saying, oh, you'll get immediate, funds and you get paid immediately and it's great. And like, you don't have to wait for stuff to be moved. It can be moved much more quickly. Awesome. I'm pretty sure cryptocurrency's been doing that for a while now. So it's nice to see that these old fuddy-duddies in government are starting to get the picture. But I think that they're realizing that they're about to miss the train, and the central banks want to make sure that they can control what's about to happen. In order to do that and to keep people from branching out to cryptocurrencies or creating new currencies, which could essentially override or take over the central bank currencies, they have to put a stop to it. So I think a lot of people are going to turn around in April and May of next year and go, what do you mean this thing is happening? I don't understand. Not only do we see this happening, this change of money, resources, and values, and realizing something's about to go digital, but we're watching the sun come into a square with Pluto. How our physical experience is about to be changed through new technologies and people who are controlling the masses. It's going to be wild, y'all. I mean, I'm looking at this being like, what is the solution? Learning how to grow your own food, developing food forests with communities, having a relationship with local producers, focusing on self-sustainability, learning about solar, learning about also like your rights and your freedoms. That's so important right now. Do I think that there's an opportunity for a breakthrough? 100%. I do. But I know that we don't want to wait until these moments for there to just be like a total mess, right? I think this is going to be about individuals realizing that there has to be a shift. And if the ship is going down and if this particular system is not working, we have the ability to create a new one. So really focus on what you can do to take action this week. And I'm going to take you guys through the astro weather, but focus on what you can do to take action this week and really think about where you want to be in about 6 months. I want you to be setting goals for April, May, and June of 2024. Where do you want to be? Because it could be bigger, better, and brighter than you ever imagined. It could be this huge opportunity for freedom and breakthrough off of taking the necessary chances, doing the research, and getting to the heart of the matter this week. All right. So let's talk astro weather now that you guys have heard my sermon. So we're going to start on the 12th. As you guys are watching this, happy Sunday to all the Sunday crew. I hope you guys are thriving. I hope nobody's waking up cranky and crabby, because that's kind of what the astrology says. The Mars opposition started at 21 degrees and change over the last 2 days. So Friday, Saturday, now today, you guys are still feeling that. So some of these like tower events, that's why I put the tower behind me, are kind of taking place. They've been taking place this weekend. Like I said, I'm filming this before the weekend hits. So if there's some kind of like other bank that collapses or some other kind of financial, brouhaha, it would not surprise me. And it would be really interesting, this happening over the weekend. And I'm going to tell everybody, watch what you're doing with your spending, with your investments, watch all of your accounts, because you're going to see a lot of money that's going to go back and forth, or it's going to have issues getting converted or turned over in some way. Now, the Mars opposition is still happening. It's still at 21, although it's starting to break away. And we see that the moon is in Scorpio, so we're coming into the new moon in Scorpio. So this is a dark moon. Sunday and Monday are wonderful days to be like, I'm cleaning something out. I'm done with this. I'm getting all of this out of the fridge. I'm getting all this out of the closet. I am taking some kind of action to get down to the bottom of a matter. Whatever it is, like, this is the cleaning out before we set intentions. This is probably, in my mind, one of like the best new moon periods to completely start over. So if you're needing a clean start or a fresh start in the Scorpio area of your life, start setting intentions to do that today. And it would be wonderful also to like make a list of everything that you want to kind of release and let go of, and focus on purging and clearing today into tomorrow before we get into the new moon. Now, when we're in like this dark moon phase, like, we're crabby, right? That's just what happens. There is a sense of needing to be more private with the moon in Scorpio, but we're also passionate, secretive, and needing time to kind of pause and reflect about what we're getting ready to shift or change. Because all these planets in opposition to Uranus is going to be a rug pull. And for some of you guys, it's going to be in the immediate next couple of days. For others, it'll take the next month. For the rest of us, it's going to be about 6 months. And then we're going to look back and go like, wow, that big change, that big transformation, it actually started in November of 2023. Now, the moon will come into opposition with Jupiter, which is pretty much more or less the last aspect that the moon will make before it comes into a new moon at 20 degrees. So that tells me there is some big feeling, there's some big vibes about what is physically changing or kind of shifting right before we come into this new moon. Then the moon is going to in conjunct or quincunx Chiron. So it's like, oh man, not my favorite day personally. So that moon is going to oppose Jupiter, and that's going to be all in the morning. So maybe you're watching this and you're like hiding in a office somewhere, like from your family, and you're drinking your tea and you're just like a goblin, like leave me alone. Probably that's how we're all going to be feeling as we're watching this, to be honest with you. And the quincunx, or the in conjunct to Chiron, is where maybe we're realizing that we're behaving that way or we're reacting that way because like we're feeling like we're being pressured, or we're feeling like we're resisting to change, or being vulnerable, because these are things that sometimes Scorpio has challenges with, being seen, right? There's a reason why we like to kind of like hide, socially in the back of the room or whatever. We're feeling the room out, we're sussing it out. But especially with this moon Mars, it's like maybe intuitively, hey, I'm in a mood, or I know this astrology is coming, so I'm just kind of keeping my peace from people. Some people may not respond well to that because they'll pick up on the subtle kind of psychic cues that's like, oh, somebody's avoiding me. I know they saw my story. Why won't they talk to me? That kind of like Scorpio paranoia stuff. Anyway, it's happening all day today. So we don't really have a lot of support from the moon. I wish we did. We don't. So Sunday is going to be a kind of like intense, shocking, surprising, getting calm and collected and prepared for this new moon that's eventually going to be coming on Monday the 13th. So as we go through the PM hours, the moon's getting closer and closer. We're going to have that new moon that's going to be at 20 degrees of Scorpio at the crack of dawn. So I'm on Central Time, so it's going to be around 3:30 my time, but it'll be closer to 1:30 Pacific time on Monday morning. It's going to be closer to 4:30 Pacific time on the East Coast. Something probably just being here in the United States is going on in the other part of the world that we're going to be finding out about when we're waking up. Wake up in the morning and look at the pre-markets. That's my advice. Be watching what's going on there, because there's probably going to be some stuff that's going to be swinging pretty wildly. When the moon's in Scorpio, and when the moon's in Scorpio in general, people are more fearful. That's just what happens. But when we're coming into the new moon, everybody's going, oh, everything's flushing out, sell, or like whatever. When in reality, it's like, we don't know. This is anything goes, because the opposition to Uranus means that it could feel like a psych. I can only liken this to what's happened in recent months where, you hear like Jamie Dimon and like other people come out and like basically talk negatively about like cryptocurrencies or like Bitcoin or whatever. And there's all this like fear around it, like, oh, don't buy it, or like this isn't going to do anything, or this, that, and the other. There's going to be penalties. And then the price drops, and then everybody jumps in. When I say everybody, the big banks are, creating all of these spots and stuff for these currencies will get in, and they get it at the bottom. You're going to see something similar like this. Will it be today? I don't know. It'll be that day. You might see it when the moon goes into Aquarius and it squares it. You're definitely going to start to feel this as we're coming into the full moon. But there's going to be some wild erratic swings this particular month. So be ready for it. And when that moon in conjuncts Chiron, for me, that's like double Mars energy. That's like cutting to the bone. There can be some powerful things that come up that are also really painful, that we don't want to deal with. We don't want to acknowledge. So you might be needing some private time to kind of work through those moods. We wake up then in the morning, by the time we're awake, and it's like off to the races. Okay, so right when we hit wake up time, those of you guys who have like a 8 or a 9 to 5, early in the morning, moon is conjunct Mars. Whatever you have to do, make a note of the 13th, okay? Red letters in your calendar. Slow down. Don't rush. Don't argue. Get up a little bit earlier. Take time to ground your energy. Meditate. Eat a meal before you leave the house, you know, take your time getting to work. Don't get into an altercation with somebody on the freeway. Whatever happens, just breathe, because this is going to be a stressful morning. We are going to find that the intentions that we set, where we were like, oh, new moon in Scorpio, you know, we're orchestrating change. It's forced. We are being forced to do this, to immediately jump into our action. So this is not a new moon where we're going to go, okay, I'm going to give myself the month to figure it out. No, commit to the changes that you're making. Start it Monday morning. Stick with it. If you use this moon appropriately to manifest what your dreams and your desires are, to bring in more opportunity for freedom, for pleasure, for abundance, for wealth, for resources, you will find that likely some of your intentions will come full circle, especially in 6 months' time. But it's going to take that long to reach this goal. In the morning, when moon conjuncts Mars, people are feeling extra spicy. Here's the positive. Moon Mars is, I'm purging, I'm detoxing, I'm clearing. Some people will angry or ugly cry. It is expected. We might also see people who get up first thing in the morning and they go, I'm actually going to the gym today, you know, or I'm getting up early to get my things done. Remember, the North Node is ruled by Mars. So this is saying, like, I'm getting up and I'm, you know, setting a new schedule, or, you know, I'm making more of an effort to focus more on what I can change, what I can transform, what can I change. Other people may not want to change, but I do. And so stick with it. Expect there to be some conflict and some agitation. That moon is going to keep on keeping on. It'll start to trine out to Neptune, which bath, soaking, going swimming, you know, hot water detoxes, you know, taking time to be in the shower and just kind of clear things away, whatever you got to do. Likely that's what you're needing to do in the morning. So watch for some of that intensity. Before the moon even trines Neptune, it's going to oppose Uranus. So it's like, okay, let's roll this back a little bit. That's the emotional reaction to the sudden change. So that's all as soon as you wake up in the morning, okay? So I read to you guys the Sabian symbols of 22 degrees. You know that this can be talking about needing to kind of take our time and not reacting to something. And this is also about staying grounded, right? Bridge over troubled water. Maybe play the song. I don't know. Maybe that will help you. I don't know. All right. So then we take this to, let's see, the rest of the 13th. So watch for financial dramas, major swings, transaction issues processing transactions, possessing funds, or cash. That's what I have. Okay. And when some of these Mars, Uranus stuff, which can be volatile, comes up, you want to go back to, okay, what was my intention? What am I doing? Where am I taking action today? Stay the course. That will help you. Then the moon will start trining Neptune, and that's going to have you intuitive, tapped in, and helping you be compassionate and release or let go. Now, later in the day, you're going to see the moon is going to make a sextile to Pluto. So it is realizing that there is some significant power shift that's going on in the world. And then we will see the moon's ingress into Sagittarius in the evening. Now, what's going to happen here is right when the moon goes into Sag, it is squaring Saturn. So emotionally relating at the end of the day, not easy to do. Traveling, going to be more challenging to do. We're going to see there's going to be some delays, some roadblocks. I'm anticipating it's a mixed bag. You know, Mercury is basically challenging Saturn's power and control and structures. I anticipate that you're going to hear some people speaking out on Monday, and they're going to be Sagittarius type people. You know, it might be priests, it might be teachers, it might be international leaders, it might be other media that's challenging or condemning how governments are handling things behind the scenes. Mercury in Sag, it's in its fall, so it can have a tendency to want to get on its soapbox and say what it needs to say. But I do feel like it's going to be interesting to watch that Moon-Mercury conjunction brew overnight and see what some people are saying, like what their spin is on some of the stuff that's going on in the world personally, especially because this is a global degree too, 21. That's a Sagittarius degree. So word is beginning to spread. All right, so then this is going to take us to the 14th in the morning. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Sagittarius and it's coming into conjunction with Mercury. So we're out of the square with Saturn. We've gone through the communication or the emotional relating roadblock. This is a very busy communicative morning. You're probably going to find that there's more of a need to sort through your information, check your information, because, you know, Mercury and Sag can definitely over-exaggerate something. There may be more talk revolving around college, education, travel, philosophical beliefs, and yeah, sharing news with people. What I like about this is that there's a sextile to Venus. And so if you guys saw my Venus and Libra video, I talk about how that's really the only support Venus gets. I do think this will help us become more diplomatic and, you know, relate to other people better and try to understand people better. And it is encouraging us to at least have like an open forum and, you know, trying to be more open to other people's beliefs and perspective. Here's the problem. Mercury and the moon are coming into an inconjunct with Jupiter, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter is about culture, law, philosophy, belief system. So everybody's going to have their own opinions about how we should be handling global events or financial events, or what's kind of changing or getting challenged with our physical experiences. So this is a blind spot, right? So it might mean that some countries handling financial changes in one way and one's handling it in another way, or they're falsely representing something, or they're kind of smoothing it over, saying, oh no, it's not as bad as you think. Because there can be a tendency to overgeneralize things with Mercury and Sagittarius, especially when it comes to global affairs. But it all comes down to food, money, and resources. That's really the only aspect that we're going to see. And, you know, the moon's going to keep doing its thing. It's going to keep going through Sagittarius. It's going to pick up a trine in the late evening hours to Chiron. So it's helping us kind of tap in and heal. And it's about, I think, learning lessons in healing and also keeping an open mind. We go to the 15th and we wake up in the morning and the moon is still in Sag. So this is now on Wednesday. So here's the moon. When the moon is in Sagittarius, we're always watching Mercury, and this is going to be, we always watch Jupiter down here. And I'm watching Mercury come into a quincunx or an inconjunct with Jupiter. So this is yet another day that's like, okay, are we all on the same page? And like, do we have the same values and the same beliefs? And obviously, so I feel like some of the issues going on in today's world is like a wildly difference of opinion on values and how we should be handling some of these physical or financial kind of changes. I think this is also going to be really important to be reading into the rules of law on the 15th. Now, we're also going to see the moon start coming into a trine with the North Node. So that's feeling more bright, cheery, optimistic, feeling like anything is possible. And we're experiencing a sextile to the South Node. So we're trying to kind of see the silver lining in things that might be changing or shifting, especially when it comes to relationships and forging our own path forward. I anticipate that Wednesday is going to bring some very inspiring conversations. I think about how, you know, the moon is going to inconjunct Uranus and it wants to come up with unique and innovative ways of fixing things. And Mercury is going to inconjunct Jupiter. So they're kind of saying like the same thing. That's like, we have this problem. How do we make a change? How can we move through this change kind of globally and come together? And it's really going to encourage people to be willing to see other perspectives. And I think because Jupiter is at an 8 and Mercury will be at an 8, it's about peeling back some layer of something that is maybe not so visible, because 8s are secretive, and trying to look beyond just the physical appearance of things, like going deeper. Like I think about how, just as an example, I was listening to an interview recently, and I want to say it was like a senator that blocked a bill recently in the United States. I think it was somewhere in the South. And she refused to sign off on this bill because she read through the 100 pages. And what they had found is that within one of those 100 pages, they were trying to redefine what currency was. And they were trying to push the bill along. And very, very Mars Uranus. It's like, okay, hurry up, let's go. So, you know, let's get it done. Then we can have control. So this Mercury, which is about documents, communication, ideas, lessons, learning, travel, it's in conjunct Jupiter. So we may see some similar things where we're like, wait a second, like what is the real meaning? You know, Mercury and Sag, what is the real meaning of this? What is the true translation of this? What does it actually mean? Especially for Taurus, for the common people. What does it mean if we actually have a digital ID? What does it mean if we make this segue or this shift in currency? How would that actually affect all of us as human beings? And also, how do you guys think you're going to carry around these digital wallets? You think it's just going to be in your phone? You guys don't think it's going to have anything to do with your physical body? Because Uranus and Taurus is about changes and transformations to physical form. When Jupiter comes into conjunction, it's also going to be relating to that on a global level. Now, I know there are some places. I know that this is, I think, pretty common in, I think it's either Sweden or like the Netherlands, but we're already starting to see them adopting this in society. You can put a chip in your hand, you can pay for things, you can get in and out of your car. Convenient, right? But is it going to be something that we are comfortable with, fusing our body with electronics and technology? Is this the start of transhumanism? I don't know. Makes me kind of feel like this is going to be talked about this week as like, well, this wouldn't be a problem if we had something that was global. Let's create a solution and it'll encompass everybody. You're going to hear a lot of like inclusivity. Whenever you hear that term, especially in terms of like world currency or world religion, I would get a little iffy personally, because I think that it's going to sound a lot better than what it really is. You know, so much of Saturn and Pisces, somebody recently said this on my channel and I was like, that was brilliant. They said, you know, shedding the dead weight of Pisces. No disrespect to Pisces. But all these planets in Sagittarius are coming down and they're throwing the hammer down on Saturn and Neptune over the next couple of weeks. And it's going to be like, why do we have to do this? What is the purpose? Why are we dissolving borders? Why are we making certain religions feel like they have to come together and like celebrate together, pray together? I mean, I'm all for people getting along and there being peace. I think that's the most important thing. But I'm not down for dissolving certain structures that I think we need to have. And I'm also not down for being told that we have to do something so everybody can get on the same system. Watch for some of this chit chat that's probably going to be going down on the 15th. Now, we're also going to see the moon start to come into a square with Neptune. And that has us feeling a little emotionally sensitive, confusing feelings. Look for that to be happening later in the day. So it looks like we're going to pick up a trine to the North Node at 24 degrees in the mid-afternoon. And we are now starting to see the Sun-Mars conjunction fade, although they will move side by side pretty closely. We've got the moon square Neptune in the evening hours, and then at night, likely before we're going to bed, or while we're in bed overnight, the moon enters into Capricorn. So this will be early on the 16th. All right, so very different vibe here. Now this is going to take us into the 16th, which is Thursday. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Capricorn. So this is all about getting down to business, doing emotional labor, you know, feeling prepared, working through things, going through the motions. And the moon is going to do some interesting stuff. It's going to come into a trine with Jupiter, once again at an 8. And I feel like this is good for like getting things done. This is good for like feeling productive and that you're able to, you know, change something about your beliefs and your habits. Obviously, when the moon goes into Capricorn, we're looking at Saturn. And from the moment that the moon ingresses into Capricorn, it's sextiling Saturn. So it's in harmony. But in the late afternoon, we're going to see the moon that's going to square Jupiter, but it's going to, trine Jupiter, but it's going to square Venus. So this is a little like wonky. For me, this is like feeling like we may not be feeling the love, or there's some delays in how we are emotionally relating in relationships. It might feel like, okay, I got to get my work done before I can have my playtime, or I can spend time with my partner, or, you know, I'm right into the middle of something, let me call you back. And so that moon square Venus does have a difficult time relating, but the trine to Jupiter is about getting things done. So really put off, I think, any like need for like socializing or anything until after your work day has commenced if you're working. And then the moon's going to keep going through Capricorn. Okay, so as it keeps going through Capricorn, and we see that Cazimi still, I guess if you want to get technical, it's already happening at 24. And then we're going to see on the 17th, okay, so the Cazimi is happening overnight, by the way. The Sun-Mars Cazimi, the conjunction, the superior one that I've been talking about. At 24 degrees. So this is secretive, hidden, something involving seas. I think it might represent some kind of secret, unexpected operation, some kind of attack, some kind of military movement. And this is going to exactly in conjunct the North Node. I mean, per the degree. I mean, almost per the minute, if you want to get technical. It's going to be off by about 10. So I'm thinking about what's happening overnight, the 16th into the 17th. Okay, so you guys see what I'm talking about? So many complex aspects with Mars in opposition to Uranus. So there's going to be more shocks and surprises even coming into, the end of the week. So when Mars pulls in front of the sun, there is something that's dying and being reborn. It could be a goal, it could be a situation, it could be some source of power. You really got to look at your chart. But the exact in conjunct to the North Node and the exact trine to Neptune tells me that it will deal with secret dealings and war, taxes, crime, weapons, drugs, and overseas situations. I'm thinking about like pharmaceuticals. I'm thinking about medications. That Sun-Mars conjunction tells me something new is being born that could potentially bring in a lot of money. I know there's been more talk about new FDA, regulated like obesity drugs that are coming out. So I do think that we're going to be seeing a lot more about money being made in pharmaceutical situations. Mars does deal with either poisons, as does Scorpio. But it also deals with things that might attack. And so the Sun-Mars conjunction is attacks on what? Is it attacks on, our heart health? Is it attacks secretly on our vitality? I get a little weary of that conjunction and the sextile to the moon. So then we are waking up early on Friday on the 17th. The Sun-Mars conjunction we're still feeling, even though it's separating. And we wake up to the moon in Capricorn, and it is coming into a trine with Uranus. So financial changes, resources shift, as do banks, food, and possession. But likely because the moon's in Capricorn, we're hearing from government or political officials or bosses or leaders, hey, there's this change going on, right? There's this shift. Guys, layoffs and like financial cuts and all kinds of things where people are cutting back is happening. So I think we're going to hear more about this on the 17th, while the moon in Capricorn can be like heads of companies or boards or whatever saying, oh, we're adopting something new, we're making a shift. Part of it is also about shifting into relying more on technology, AI. So Uranus can very much be that. And then, I also think that this is a really important time to pay attention to what's going in the world, because the moon is going to be getting closer and closer to Pluto, which is important because sun is in Scorpio, and it's going to sextile. So it's like, oh, this sudden crash happened, or this crisis happened, or this bank failed, or, you guys can't get your money out of it, or we were attacked, so therefore, we need money to put into this like next new war or whatever. And you're probably going to be hearing about this on the 17th. What's interesting is that the moon is also going to square the nodes. So it doesn't just conjunct Pluto, where there is some emotional breakdown, change, transformation, fear, working through power structure issues, whatever. But when the moon squares its own nodes, it's really, I think, saying that we're at like a turning point. There's some situation that's happening in the Capricorn area of your life where there is a shift which could promote some kind of major change in regards to, our destiny, right? South Node in Libra, karmic relationships. North Node in Aries, focusing more on ourselves. Action and motivation and passion. And the South Node in Libra is getting out of being passive, not being in superficial relationships, not just going along with things, not just being too understanding, not getting too comfortable, right? Or lazy, having to do the work. Moon conjunct Pluto. So that's going to keep happening. We're going to see that's another really intense day that's on tap pretty much all of Friday. And then later in the evening, the late hours going into Saturday morning, overnight, moon will conjunct Pluto. Still sextiling Mars and the sun. So there's something that's still kind of getting flushed out, I think. We wake up Saturday the 18th. And in the morning when we get up, the moon is ingressing into Aquarius. So different vibe. We're shifting out of like the heaviness of moon Pluto in Capricorn, where we're seeing some kind of emotional breakdown or a breakdown of power or control. Now the moon is in Aquarius, so it's going to be about socializing. It's about groups. It's about togetherness. It is about coming together with other people as well. So we're not going to see too much going on Saturday. You know, it really won't do much. We're going to see a pretty unaspected moon in Aquarius really until the PM hours. So wanting to socialize and do things Saturday day is fine. But not too many aspects from the moon until we start getting into the PM hours on the 18th on Saturday when the moon is coming into a square with Jupiter. So it might leave us feeling like a little bit of like a hangover, a financial hangover, some kind of, you know, change to our values, our friendships. Maybe we spent a little more than we wanted to going out. Maybe we ate a little bit more than we wanted to, right? Jupiter and Taurus. So there is a sense of overdoing it. But then the moon begins to trine Venus. So it's like, yeah, but I got to spend time with my friend, or I got to, you know, have time with my partner, or we got to experience some kind of like fun or joy. And we're also going to start to see that the moon throughout the evening is going to start coming into aspects with Chiron. So I like Saturday for doing some things. Just watch out for overindulgence. And then we wake up in the morning on the 19th. So this is next Sunday. And we're going to get into a bit of like a landlock with some squares. So be mindful that Sunday is going to be a little challenging. That moon is still in Aquarius. So it's still focusing on socializing, friends, connection with people. Maybe we're still feeling the love from the trine to Venus in Libra, where we've been focusing on coming together with like-minded people. And then the moon starts coming into a trine with the south node. So we're kind of clearing relationship karma in some way, or we're clearing imbalances. Maybe, you know, you did something different on Saturday and you hung out with a different group of friends, or instead of staying in with your partner, you went out and joined a group, or you did something different than what you're used to doing, right? Aquarius is going against the grain. But what we're going to start to experience is now the moon coming into a square with Uranus. So it's about how we feel collectively about that shift. And so that feels a little uncomfortable. The moon is like wanting to do its own thing, and Uranus is also wanting to do its own thing. That's the ruler. And as we go through Sunday, we're going to see that the moon is building into what's eventually going to be a square with Uranus in the afternoon. And then in the evening, it's coming into a square with Mars and the sun. So Sunday night is not the easiest night to have plans. You're going to feel like there is some kind of change coming, you know, from outside of you, or a change with a goal, or a change with a friendship or another person. And it'll really be from about 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific time or 6 p.m. Eastern on. So once you hit midday and this square happens to Uranus, it's going to keep on rolling until it's coming into a square with the sun and Mars. And that's where, you know, we're going to experience the first lunar square in this cycle. So it's going to represent some kind of challenge, some kind of issue. And in the PM hours, we start to see the moon square Mars and then the sun. So I'm not so sure about plans on Sunday night personally. The first quarter square does represent this opening up to what was seeded during that new moon that we had in Scorpio. So if you think about the sun, the moon, and Mars all in conjunction, now it's coming into Aquarius, and it's like, okay, there is this drama or this sudden change or change in resources or something that happened that also has an impact on our friends and our socializing and some of our goals. So some people might be like, you know, hey, sorry, you know, I don't have the funds to go out tonight, or, you know, I'm having a difficult time going through some changes. I don't know if I can participate. And you might see that friends rally and they're encouraging you to join. That is the positive. But look for where groups or society or other people are influencing in some way, something in regards to making changes with your resources. Sunday's going to be an interesting day to be on the internet. I mean, I haven't said a lot about it, but I do think that there is some concern to what's happening right now with, freedom of speech, especially on the internet, being a content creator. You know, what is being filtered or what is being throttled. There is an upcoming, Supreme Court case that's going to be going on in regards to this administration, and if they can continue to interfere with our social networks and whether or not we can share information readily. I do think that the Sun-Mars, opposition to Uranus, if they don't get their way, and they don't have the ability to influence the internet, or they don't have the ability to influence social media accounts or platforms, Potentially they start going after internet providers and trying to throttle things or making it more difficult to have access to Uranus, the internet. You know, Taurus, it can be physical goods, electricity, right? So there's going to be an attack on some of these things, and you got to kind of look around and ask yourself, like, why is this thing burning down? Is it because something is getting ready to change in this area of my life? So watch for those Sunday plans that might get a little jumbled. Obviously, fingers crossed. I'm hopeful that things get a little bit easier next week, as much as this sounds kind of challenging to kind of get through. It is what it is, and we'll come out the other side of it, I'm sure. Let me take you guys now through the 12 rising signs. I want to show you very specifically where the Mars-Uranus opposition is taking place, where there's going to be action for you all week long. I personally like to practice this with Placidus. That's just my hot take. When I do these videos for you guys live, I'm using the whole sign method because it's the easiest to relay this information to just a general audience. If you're somebody who's new to astrology, I would just say, you know, just for right now, stick with the whole sign. If you feel adventurous and you want to learn more about what's going on with Placidus, I recommend that. Those of you guys who are like, I know what you're talking about, okay, you might have to listen for more than one rising sign. So the exact Mars-Uranus opposition will be at 21 degrees. Okay, so here's Mars, here's Uranus. My recommendation is listen, obviously, for your sun, moon, and rising. There's been a little debate in the comment section about this recently. You can listen to all three. I think all of them will help. Personally, I like to listen to my ascendant sign first because that's going to show me where in my life these actions are taking place. I also like to listen to my moon sign because it's going to help me emotionally kind of adapt. And I would really recommend that with this one because the North Node is involved here. And you're going to see that through this opposition, there's also an inconjunct to the North Node, which is associated with the moon. But listen to your sun sign as well. That might give you more insight in terms of what you want on a professional level or just for overall happiness. I think there can be something that can be found from all three of the predictions, okay? So I'll be using whole sign Western. I'm a Western astrologer. That's what I practice. If you want to listen to your progress chart or if you want to listen to Placidus, go ahead, choose your own adventure. Just look for 21 degrees. As a reminder, Aries and Scorpio, you're really feeling this. Also, the fixed signs, you are going to be feeling this. So if you know that you have any planets 20 to 22 degrees of the fixed signs, put a helmet on, right? Life gets a little bumpy this week. And pay attention to the rocks and the rattles and the rolls. I am anticipating also doing a video for you guys on the Sun conjunct Mars. So I have not forgotten about that. There's a shit show this Scorpio season, pun intended. All right. So let's talk Aries and Aries risings. You are going to be experiencing Mars and Scorpio in your 8th house. It is coming into an opposition with Uranus that will be located in your 2nd house. So wherever Mars goes, that's where you go, right? That's where things are going to be playing out for you. So you have Mars deep in your 8th house of other people's money and resources. You could be dealing with debt. You could be dealing with loans. You could be dealing with money owed. Maybe there's a lot of talk with a partner or a business partner about taxes or money. Mars also has connections, obviously, to your 1st house, which is your body. So this is about what you are consciously changing. To me, this looks like a whole week of opportunity for better intimacy, closer with another person, more transparency. But also it's a week of like death and rebirth energy, purging and purification. Really focusing on the physical changes which you're hoping to accomplish, but it might mean that you have to go a little bit deeper emotionally or psychologically within the 8th house. So watch for that to be taking place. I definitely feel like there can be some scary stuff that can be coming up for you, Aries. It is about being vulnerable, and if you're somebody who has been thinking about undergoing a significant change or a dramatic transformation or a surgical procedure or maybe going back into doing some healing work or some therapy, any of these things can be coming up for you this week. The card that I get for you is the Queen of Coins or the Queen of Pentacles. Interesting that the 8th house can be about wealth and access to other people's money. It looks like you may very well have that this week. The Queen of Pentacles can be an earth sign, so like a Taurus, a Virgo, or a Capricorn that can come in that can help you. But it can also be about you nurturing your resources, being more practical, being more generous, being welcoming, and also really leveling up when it comes to maturity, maybe with your finances and your resources, okay? So it's looking good for you, my Aries. Let me know how it goes. I'm sure you will have lots of fun stories in the comment section for me this week. Good luck. We got Taurus and Taurus rising. So you will be experiencing Mars going through Scorpio, making an opposition to Uranus in your first house. Oh boy. I hope you listened to your horoscopes. You knew this was coming, that you knew that this week in particular was going to be really big for you and your relationship to another person. So you have Mars in the 7th house of relationships and other people. This can be your marketplace if you have services or you sell something. This can be your relationship with a partner, a spouse, a business partner, a client. This is just other people in general. So if you're not in a relationship, you're like, I'm single, somebody might, seek you out. Somebody might also be a little aggressive this week. You might notice that. Mars is at home in Scorpio, and it also has connections to the 12th house. So it's very likely that there are some sudden unexpected things that kind of come up within relationship to other people that send you for a little bit of a tailspin. It might mean that things are coming out into the open, but it also can be surprises, Taurus. So I could see this being a week of surprises. Other people are surprising you. You are surprising other people. But the truth is that this is especially potent because it's taking place in your 1st and in your 7th house. So this can be about other people challenging you, and challenging can be good. This is good for bringing in like a motivator or a coach or somebody who's pushing you to really evolve. Not so great if you're not seeing eye to eye with somebody, and there definitely can be with this opposition some situation that manifests where it's like somebody takes some kind of action for themselves and it really kind of sets you off, and you're realizing that some way they're behaving, some way they're acting, it could literally be aggressive, argumentative energy. Puts you in a position where you're like kind of, feeling like you need to throw down, and you need to tell somebody what's up, that they're not going to have control over you or over the situation. Try to de-escalate conflict. Realize that really what you want is peace. The other person may not want peace. Peace may not be possible. Let's take a look. But it definitely comes down to who's having control over something. The card that I got for you is the Justice card, which is interesting because this is about balancing energies out. In the background, your ruler is in the 6th house, which means you may be feeling a little disgruntled about relationships or working relationships or, maybe, other coworkers. Justice is about justice being served. It's about balance and fairness and universal laws, karma, cause and effect. Truths being revealed. Ooh, well, Mercury's in the 8th house, maybe. And legal truth and accountability and consequences. So actions, right, Scorpio, have consequences. And I think the consequences are going to be if somebody does something and you're like, okay, that's it, I'm done, that could be the consequence. But be mindful, people are going to be a little testy this week. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You are going to be experiencing Mars going through Scorpio in your 6th house, and it's going to make an opposition to Uranus in Taurus in your 12th. All right, so this is about habits and healing. Essentially, the 6th house is your health habits, daily routine, and your workflow. There's a huge focus on health, maybe cutting something out, maybe cutting something back, maybe it's starting a new job, being more physically active. You might feel like there's a never-ending list of to-do. But the actions that you're taking here in regards to your 6th house of your daily routine are very important because it's going to have an influence down the road on maybe your spiritual health, maybe it's your mental health. It might also be about scheduling and planning so you can travel or you can continue to maybe, learn because the 12th house can be about education or foreign travel. But when I think of the 6th, I think about sickness that can come up or injuries that can come up or accidents that can come up, which puts us in a position of having to heal. So if you're wanting to prevent from having to take time off or having to see a specialist, or if you're wanting to finally get down to the nitty-gritty of a bad habit and find peace, this is what you want to be doing with these particular oppositions. Remember what I said about earlier in this video. These things will take 6 months to fully manifest. So, you know, for many of you guys, it's kind of looking at the opposition going, that's what I really want. So now it's time to get real about your habits and your routines, so that way you can feel like you have more peace, you have more clarity, or maybe you have more freedom. The card that I got for you is the Queen of Wands. I like this a lot because, well, wands deal with like a fire element. I think this is about getting creative with your habits and your routine. I think this is about having more confidence and more independence. I could also see this as, you know, like a turning point for you where you're really realizing like that it's okay for you to organize your life in a way where you're getting everything in order so you can have more downtime, because Taurus in the 12th house is like, I just want to rest, you know? So maybe there's some seeds that you're planting creatively or professionally or physically that is going to allow you to have more time for rest and recuperation next year. Look for support from fire signs. Aries, Sag, or Leos might also pop in to help you with this transition. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. So good luck, my Geminis. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You will be experiencing Mars in Scorpio coming into opposition with Uranus in Taurus. Well, look at the stellium of planets that you have in your 5th house. This is a romantic, fun, creative time. Good for dating. It's good for your relationship to younger people or children, self-expression, or, you know, just having fun, to be honest with you. This opposition that you're having is all about how creativity can really help you have some major breakthroughs when it comes to your goals. The 5th house is about self-love, and it's about what we create or give life to. And think of it as like the stage, and the 11th house is your audience. So if you're like, I am going to start my own YouTube channel, I'm going to launch my own business, I'm going to, you know, really focus on spending more time with my kids, whatever it is, getting out there, dating, whatever. This is going to manifest over the next 6 months, and it might bring you into an opportunity where you're well received by groups of people, you are making new friends. If you want to start a new hobby, you could do this here. Especially, like, I think this is about making changes in how you have fun and the impact that that has on the kind of people that you're around, because, you know, Scorpio in the 5th house can be like, okay, I'm a little resistant or reluctant to change the way that I have fun or the way that I'm dating. And maybe it's that you're approaching it in a way where you're like, I'm not afraid of dating. I'm just going to get out there and meet people and make friends. And then you're able to make friends and have a change in your love life. That can happen as well. But some sudden action happening here, especially with the new moon. You know, you're sensitive to new and full moons. So there's something new that's being seeded about having fun, creativity, and experiencing love or joy. The card that I get for you is the 5 of Wands. Looks like a 7. The 5 of Wands. So pushing through or breaking through in some way, which we see that with Mars in opposition to Uranus. We want to make sure that we're not pushing too hard, where there's a rip, a tear, an accident, there's an argument. And this card is a card of conflict. So conflict, disagreements, tension, diversity, rivalry, challenges, aggression, clash of egos. Very Sun in opposition to the 11th house Uranus, especially because the Sun is very strong in the 5th house. So there can be some ego flare-ups between you and other people. So I would watch for that. But the positive here is that this is a sister sign. So it's trining your ascendant. So it might have you in your feelings. And it's also, you know, Uranus is sextiling your sun, moon, or rising in some capacity by sign, which is helping you adapt to changes. And so it looks like it's about maybe having some changes in the way that you express yourself or have fun, and trying to find people who can kind of help support that. Watch for some of the conflict. Try to diffuse it if you can. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing Mars and Scorpio in opposition to Uranus, which will be in your 10th house of Taurus. For you guys, this is an interesting one. It's definitely intense, especially if you have any planets around 20 or 22 degrees. So 20, 21, 22 degrees of Leo, sun, moon, or rising. If you do, then Leo, these are the focal points of the square. So you might be like a main character in orchestrating some of these dramatic changes that are going to be coming. Really, it's about putting your flair on it, being like, okay, lights, camera, action, and maybe instilling some of the major changes in your life. So we've got Mars that's in the 4th house. So it's really heating up things in regards to home and family. And it's coming into opposition with Uranus in your 10th house, which is about status changes or changes in regards to your career. For many of you guys, it's going to represent this balance between, wanting to take action with home, family, or renovations, changes on the home front, moving, and how it impacts very suddenly or dramatically your career or your relationship with other people. Watch for parenting issues. This can come up here because Uranus represents relationships, and I noticed that it's on the parenting axis. So I don't know if it can be a difference of opinion on something with a family member or a relative, or where some kind of action at home is kind of like interfering or maybe causing some challenges with your career. I think the new moon has been all about being like, I got to get X, Y, and Z done at home or on the home front or in regards to a living situation before finally having this big breakthrough in your professional life. And, anytime you see oppositions to Uranus, it does bring up some relational issues. So it can be with roommates, can be with family, it can be with spouses, and you may be feeling like you're kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But it's a good time to bring about some kind of necessary change. Even if it's just moving the furniture around with Mars in your 4th house, that can help. The card that I get for you is the Knight of Pentacles, and I'm kind of relieved because this is an energy that's going to be more grounding, and it's going to be like a slow and steady approach. So instead of being like, oh, I'm, quitting my job and joining the circus, right? Sometimes we see some of this stuff with these Mars-Uranus oppositions. You're like, hold on a second, I'm going to really take my time and feel this out. The Knight of Pentacles can be an earth sign. So it can be a Taurus, it can be a Capricorn, it can be a Virgo, or it can be you that's just choosing to kind of really think things through and pump the brakes. This is about being practical and reliable, slow and steady, hardworking, committed, grounded, and also focusing on being pragmatic and, taking time to really make decisions. So rather than rushing to be like, I'm going to move, or I'm going to change jobs, or I'm going to do this, like take your time. Really think about what changes you need to be making on the home front now so you can have more opportunity for freedom and growth within your professional life next spring. Good luck, my Leos. And enjoy that Sun-Mars Cazimi, by the way. I'll talk more about that in my video, but you're getting so much oomph when it comes to the home base. All right, so we got Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to be experiencing a Sun-Mars conjunction, which will be taking place in Scorpio. That's going to oppose Uranus in your 9th house. My Virgos, this is big changes revolving around learning and beliefs. We might see some sudden travel opportunities. We might see some shifts revolving around how we communicate with other people, and sudden trips or traveling can happen here. Now, you've got Mars moving through your 3rd house of the mind, communication, siblings, and neighbors, and it'll oppose Uranus, which deals with scheduling, habits, and routine. So you may find that there's some stress revolving around communication with people at work. There might be some challenges in adapting to new systems or new programs. There might be some shifts also going on in regards to traveling or education. I think about in the background how, Mercury has just recently entered into Sagittarius and it's hit a square to Saturn. So maybe there's been some challenges with like communicating with partners. Maybe there's this awareness that maybe you have to move or you're getting ready to move. Definitely the 3rd house is movement, and then you're going to have a retrograde in the 4th. So what's going on here? Are there changes with your vehicle? Do you need to rent a vehicle to move? Are you having to be a little bit more assertive with people about your schedule so you feel like you have less mental stress so you can get things done? It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. But I think that if you're wanting to focus on anything, it's really about making changes revolving around the way that you look at change and embracing change. It might mean that you're a little bit more assertive with your communication style, especially if you're having to stand up for yourself or protect yourself in particular in a legal situation. Might challenge a You might challenge a teacher or a mentor or somebody as well. I could see that happening with the oppositions in your 10th, in your 9th, excuse me. The card that I got for you is the 10 of Swords. How appropriate for Sun and Mars in your 3rd house being like, that's enough. I'm done here. I'm cutting this off, you know, no more. The 10 of Swords can be about ending something. It is uncomfortable. It can be painful. So having to unfortunately end something or feeling like somebody has maybe done you dirty, you know, this can be about feeling like somebody stabbed you in the back, loss, some kind of grief, or, you know, having to let go of feeling like there's been a betrayal. Obviously, I don't like this, but I mean, the sun does rule your 12th house, so it can talk about like some disappointment of feeling like somebody failed to maybe meet your expectations or, you know, be there for you or support you in some way. And maybe this is about being like having to communicate that and admit that, about disappointment in that department. So the good news is that if you're saying you're really done with someone or something, I think it's going to stick. The challenging thing is that it's going to be about adapting, right? Because the North Node's in your 8th to some of these changes. Good luck. We got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing the Sun and Mars in Scorpio in a tight conjunction, and Mars in opposition to Uranus. All right, so this is all about changes between your resources and the resources of other people. Similar to Aries, this is a very financial kind of transit for you. You know, when Mars is in Scorpio, it's very strong, but in the 2nd house, it has a tendency to want to spend or possess or own something or have something. This is a very strong period for you, Libra, financially, because you're setting new financial goals with this new moon, and Mars is included, and it's about basically getting on the same page with other people. If you have your own business, if you have services or products or something, I could see this as like, you know, setting intentions to be like, okay, you know, prices are raising in the new year, or you're experiencing higher costs, so you're having to let other people know that, you know, you're going to need to be receiving more. There might be more conversations and going back and forth with financial advisors, with coaches, maybe investing more in other people or in relations to other people. Mars rules your 7th house, not just your 2nd. So it's about the relationships and the kind of like, Scorpio can be like karma, the fusion of your money and somebody else's. Now, Mars will oppose Uranus, which can mean that there can be a lot of tumultuous things going on in relationships. I've read the comments. I've seen for a lot of people have said Libras and Libra risings being like, what happened? I just suddenly had a breakup. Could be the eclipses in your 7th, but it could also be these planets starting to come into opposition with Uranus, where there's changes to how you feel loved or, you know, your dating life. And also when your 7th house lord is in a conflicting kind of position, with Uranus, you're going to see that maybe there's some differences of how you guys love or what you value, and that's coming out in relationships. Watch for challenges and quarrels over money. I really feel like for you, this is about taking your resources and investing it, so that way 6 months down the road, when you start to see these conjunctions happen, you see some kind of really significant growth that can be taking place for you, Libra. The card that I get for you is Temperance. I like it. I like it because Mars is in the 2nd house, and you know that is in Scorpio, but it has that energy of taking it slow and a slow and steady approach to being able to handle financial situations, especially investments or partnerships. You know, Temperance is about balance, harmony, healing, patience, self-control, moderation. I love this new moon for being like, I'm not spending money on that anymore, or I'm cutting this expense off, or I'm, you know, no longer buying this product, or I'm cutting this thing from my beauty routine, or I'm no longer eating something. Moderation could be sobriety, right? You're going to see Mars start coming into a trine with Neptune, and where you stop consuming something, and how it might actually bring you some sense of like healing or some sense of relief, okay? So be mindful of what you're investing yourself into, Scorpio, or excuse me, Libra. Good luck. We got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. All eyes are on you guys. New moon in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, Sun, Mars combust. Scorpio risings, how are you guys feeling? Are you guys feeling like Superman? I would imagine. So much energy jam-packed into this week. Brand new opportunities and beginnings. You guys are going to be chomping at the bit to make change. You're going to be feeling very empowered. You're going to feel like the energy is coming back. Okay, so really set any intentions after that new moon. Watch it start to unfold over the next month. And it's all going to be about you and your actions and the relationships you have with other people. Because Mars, your chart ruler, will oppose Uranus in your 7th house. Scorpio, Mars doesn't just rule you and your body and your actions, it also rules your 6th house of health habits and routine. So what's going to happen here as Mars is in your 1st house is you're very driven, especially with the sun being there, to be like, I am taking action in this thing for myself, what I need, what I'm doing. And that's wonderful, but it's going to come into a quincunx with the North Node, which means that you are more accident prone. It means that you can be a little reckless. It means also you might have a little bit of too much passion, which could kind of trigger some kind of blow up or reaction from a partner. 7th house can be counselors, therapists, partners, business partners. Just be careful of relationships to other people. I don't think it's limited just to romantic relationships. Uranus can be friends, and Uranus can also be family. If you're one of those Scorpios who likes to do the trauma drama and the back and forth in a current relationship about past problems or about family problems or about exes, be very careful, tread very, very lightly, because that's not something I would recommend doing, bringing up the past right now, because that's what Uranus rules. You're going to have to see how the next month goes. I'm just going to be really honest with you, because this is a time period where you're going to do better not trying to impose your new intentions or your new goals or your new fitness routine on another person. Like, that's not going to work. This is also lots of conversation about money and what you're doing with your resources versus what somebody else is doing with their resources, because it could bring up a pretty big tiff in regards to that. What else? Powerful time for initiating and planting new seeds about a physical transformation. So focus on what you can achieve, what you can change, and don't be so fixated on what other people are or are not doing. Just let them be, because usually with Taurus in the 7th house, partnerships and relationships are pretty calm. You don't really see too many issues. But I think with Jupiter and Uranus being in close proximity to each other, if you rub somebody the wrong way right now, it could be a pretty big blow up, right? Uranus is the planet of discord, separation, divorces. So there can be some things that can kind of pop up right now, some things that are being said or some actions that can really rub some partnerships the wrong way. The card that I get for you is the 4 of Wands, which is so funny, because this is about, coming together and having harmony and celebration and reunions and gatherings and stability. In this case, it can be surprises, Scorpio. There are surprises that await you in regards to surprise meetings, maybe surprise birthday parties. If you're having your birthday throughout this transit, it might mean that other people kind of shock you and surprise you with gifts. And it might be, something that takes you out of your home. So I'm wondering, Jupiter is there, is there a surprise travel or opportunity that kind of comes about for you where you're like, wait, what? And it might kind of throw you off a little bit, but this is a positive card. And I think what it's saying is, for some of you guys, it can be surprise meetings or connections with people at parties or gatherings or get-togethers, maybe even surprise proposals or marriage celebrations. I don't know. Let me know. But I'm excited to see what happens for you, Scorpio. It's quite a positive card for some rocky astrology this week. Good luck. We got Sag and Sag rising. You will be experiencing Mars and Scorpio coming into opposition with Uranus and Taurus. This will be taking place in your 12th and your 6th house. All right, so for you guys, kind of similar to Gemini, so you might see some similarities here because we got to look at both houses with the opposition. So you've got Mars in the 12th house. There's a new moon here. This is all about subconscious things that are kind of being dealt with. You might have some sleep disturbances. There might be a need for you to have more rest and recuperation time to be alone. This is about finding a safe space where you can kind of work through some of these heavy emotions that are coming up. Clearing something out is happening right before we come into your birthday season. Now, the 12th house can also be back offices. It can be working behind the scenes. It can be about foreign travel. It can be about working through karmic matters or things revolving around like your karmic, past lives. I love Scorpio in the 12th house for like doing past life regression, doing shamanic healing, soul retrieval. I really like it for like hypnosis and like working through trauma or therapy, especially relating to things that weigh heavy on your heart or things regarding, you know, past heartbreak or children, right? Childhood issues can be coming up that you're working through. But all of these planets in the 12th house represents the subconscious and the effect with the opposition that it has on your daily routines and your habits. So, you know, I'm looking at Jupiter, which is your chart ruler, and Uranus being in the 6th house. And this is about kind of getting to the subconscious realm of why you eat the way that you eat or work the way that you work or why you have the habits that you have. Taurus is food, but it can also be spending habits. It can also be about pets. So there can be some sense of subconscious things happening or things happening unexpectedly that bring about some alterations in your habits or in your health or in your daily routine. I think that I would definitely lean into doing healing work, especially if you can use, you know, trauma healing or, you know, alternative therapies or detoxing or regressions to get a better handle on some of these energies. And I know come the turn of the year, Jupiter is going to go direct in your 6th house and you're going to start to really see the effects of some dramatic changes with your health and your routine, especially next year when Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction in the spring. You may be, you know, working out differently, thinking differently, communicating differently, working differently in some way as well. So a lot of work can be done behind the scenes right now to facilitate some bigger shifts that are going to happen with your work routine, especially if you're wanting to work more independently next year. So let go of the fear. That's my recommendation, right? Really release the fear in this cycle and be more open to better health and productivity. I think that's the key forward. The card that I got for you is the Emperor. I love it. Aries, Emperor, Mars energy is the Emperor. This is about needing to get a handle on things spiritually and subconsciously before you see the physical manifestations in the spring, okay? So this is about being a boss. This can also be about dealing with a boss, dealing with a male figure, dealing with a father figure, or maybe this is about like working through anger and frustration and claiming that and finding a way to transmute it and not carry it around with you. You'll see what I'm talking about. When Mercury goes deeper into your sign and we start seeing planets coming into a square with Saturn and also Neptune, it's about taking your power back and not feeling like it's constantly being depleted, feeling like you're in charge and you're in control. So right now there's like a sense of letting things go before that can actually happen. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You are experiencing Mars in Scorpio in your 11th house, coming into an opposition with Uranus in your 5th house in the sign of Taurus. Okay, my Capricorns. So this is all about getting serious about your goals, getting active when it comes to being around other people, joining networks, taking some kind of dramatic step forward when it comes to also your goals relating to home and family. Believe it or not, this is really important for you because the North Node is moving through your 4th house. Some of you guys are trying to find your own space or buying a house, or you're spending more time at home or with family, and you may find that there is a way to balance both where you can have a new space, entertain people from home, you know, connect with friends from your past or maybe even your hometown, and find that you can be creative and successful and have fun at the same time. Definitely an easier energy for you because this both sextiles your ascendant, so it's going to help you get some kind of support in achieving your goals. And also all of this Taurus energy, it trines your sun, moon, or rising as well by sign. So really this is about like having fun more seriously, taking falling in love more seriously, making your goals about home, family, children, romance more seriously. And it's going to start with really committing to making some change to your goals and maybe the people who you surround yourself with. So the 11th house is others, but the 5th house is self. And I think that there can be a lot of encouragement coming from other people, like friends or, you know, groups or networks that you participate in, really pushing you forward to be like, yes, do that thing, or, you know, let's buy this property, or let's move in together, or, you know, like go, you know, be home, be with your family. Like, I totally understand, do your thing. So there's gonna be some change here. The opposition to Uranus means that there can be some challenges because you're committing more to the fifth house, which might be working independently, now being in a relationship, maybe having a kid. That does impact you financially. You might notice that it changes your life a lot if suddenly you become a parent, right? Fifth house can be children, and where you're spending money or with whom you're spending time with. So it'll take time for you to see this unfold, but because of some change in your goal or your friends, you're going to find that it's going to give you more time to pursue the things that you love and that you value, but it also is probably going to create some changes to your value systems and the people that you hang out with the most. Definitely a colorful energy for sure, for everybody, but for you, I think it's going to be about learning to kind of cut ties with people who maybe don't share the same goals as you or the same interests. The card that I got for you is the Hanged Man, which is generally connected to Pisces, where Saturn, your chart ruler, is. Something I'll say about this is about what you're sacrificing or what you're giving up. And so I could definitely see that with the Sun and Mars, where it's like, well, I guess I'm giving this up, but this is what I had to gain. This is also about pause, surrender, letting go. Some astrologers will say generally, you know, this can mean like there's a bit of a tiff that you have with a friend. Sure, maybe. Yeah, that could happen. And there could be a little bit of a back and forth with somebody. And if there is a friendship that's cut or a friendship that's lost, it's like, do you feel better, you know, knowing that there isn't that kind of combative energy in your life or that you've kind of released it? So there can be some shifting perspectives, new perspectives, some kind of sacrifice, definitely contemplation. So maybe you're contemplating what your goals are and what you're hoping to achieve come the spring next year. Good luck. We got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing the Mars transit in Scorpio in opposition to Uranus. So find your helmet, put it on, make sure it's fastened, because Mars is just moving through your 10th house where you're probably feeling like you want to get a lot of work done. There's a lot of competition. There is a goal that you're wanting to achieve, especially when it comes to maybe partnering or working with people or launching something with all of this energy. And this Mars, which rules career, but it also rules communication, is in a hard aspect to Uranus, which is your chart ruler. So it tells me that you're like wanting to be large and in charge and getting things done, but there is some conflict revolving around somebody you live with. It could mean that you're having trouble breaking away from the past. It means there could be an issue in regards to a situation with a relative. This is a little sticky. So it's definitely, because Mars is the faster moving planet, Mars is aspecting Uranus, which means you're feeling like somebody at work is attacking you or being a bully. It means that you may be having excess responsibility or communications or meetings, or you're having to be more assertive or courageous or pioneering at work even. So you're like, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get this done. And the opposition tells me that it does bring some disruptiveness. The pro is that this can be like an incredibly busy professional time for you, like beyond belief. And it may last for months before finally really kind of coming to this big conclusion next year, when you have a full moon that's going to be in your 10th house, and then you're going to have Jupiter and Uranus, which are going to connect. I think some of the developments within the career is going to bring sudden opportunities to move, relocate, travel, be more nomadic, and maybe working remotely, or, you know, through some of the success at work, allowing you to move into a new space, buy a home, right? Or have like a more unconventional lifestyle. Regardless, please pay attention if you are anywhere between 20 and 22 degrees, because you're going to feel that crunch. Not only because your personal planets in Taurus in Aquarius will square this, but because Uranus is being aspected. So I really want to hear from these Aquarians. Can you circle back and let me know how this week goes? I would love to hear how this affects you. I, for one, kind of feel like this is it. When oppositions happen to your chart ruler, it is relational. So I don't know if it's your relationship with a parent or a professional situation, or you're like, I'm quitting my job and I'm relocating and I'm going to go and live on a farm somewhere and, you know, start streaming my new lifestyle. For some of you guys, it might be that. But it's going to be a very transformative next 6 months for you. And I think it's all about how you communicate and how you share. I mean, I think there could be more traveling, more movement, more opportunity to kind of speak your mind. Great for those of you guys who are really wanting to get out of old patterns at work. There's that Queen of Wands again. So watch for Aries, Leos, or Sages. They may pop in and help you in some way. This can be also a more pioneering, creative, quick-moving spirit, somebody who wants to just really kind of initiate something and make something come to be. Confidence, independence. This is about being creative, self-assured, and passionate. So with all those planets in the 10th house, people are definitely going to see that. And I think that maybe it's making you realize that by kind of going after what you want, it's going to stir some stuff up either for you emotionally or with your home and family. Good luck. Let me know. All right, so we got Pisces and Pisces rising. So you guys are going to experience Mars in Scorpio in your natal 9th house. This is all about foreign travel. This is about education. This is about philosophy. And Scorpio is a fellow sister sign. So there are some trines going on from your 9th house to your 1st house, which is good because it's helping you stay, I think, connected. It's a lot about your faith and your belief system. It could also be about your connection to the world in general and education or travel. Now, Mars coming into an opposition with Uranus is a little sticky because Uranus rules unforeseen events. It also can be about subconscious and things involving foreign lands. Sun, Moon, Mars, all in your 9th house. You're setting intentions to travel, to fly, to go back to school, to make a shift in terms of your spiritual practices. And there's a lot of action there because it's trining Neptune. So it's about going after your dreams, making it happen. For some of you guys, it's like, I'm getting my degree. I am traveling the world. I am writing the book. It's like right now, whatever you're doing. It helps that Neptune is in your sign, and it's basically saying that you're following your intuition. But what's challenging is that there's likely going to be blind spots. So opposition to Uranus is like things can go missing. You know, I look at this and I'm like, don't rush to the airport and forget your passport. Don't forget your luggage. You know, Mars also has connections and associations to your 2nd house, which is about money and material possessions. So there can be like contracts and negotiations or things that you have to sign that could be legally binding. Whatever it is, whatever's getting seated right now, in 6 months' time, you're going to see Jupiter, which is your traditional ruler, come into conjunction with Uranus. So I could see a lot of like Pisces and Pisces risings that are finishing degrees that want to be able to have a business. People who are trying to get citizenship or working through visa issues, you know, that are hoping to receive documents. I could see people who are also, you know, wanting to do a little bit of traveling or exploring before they make a purchase, or they kind of decide to move or land somewhere. Learning also more about like language could be a thing as well, because if you're hoping to travel somewhere or, you know, moving to a place, you're going to want to learn more about that language or even their currency. So much of this is going to be about communication knowledge, financial knowledge. So definitely doing some like global research is important, and watch for disagreements or, you know, philosophical conflicts and like not having the same perspectives as other people. And perhaps for some of you guys, it can represent having some conflict maybe with a neighbor or with a sibling. So that can definitely come up with this opposition here as well. Look for the trines, though, to your 1st house to help you kind of neutralize some of this energy and work through it. And I think with Saturn and Neptune being there, being a little bit tapped in and also being a little bit more patient, you might find that, you know, somebody is saying, like, I know more than you, or you're wrong, I know this. And you could school them, especially if it's like a teacher or a professor or a lawyer or something. And I think you're going to kind of look around and be like, do I really want to get into this conversation or this conflict with somebody, even if I know that I'm right? The Moon card is the card that I get for you. So this is about hidden and subconscious. This is about your intuition, unforeseen events as well. What's hidden, subconscious, the unseen, right? Uranus. So there's going to be some unexpected conversations or flashes of insight or inspiration or intuition. Trusting your intuition, uncertainty, confusion, working through secrets. Definitely secrets, things that people have not said or have not brought to the surface. There might be some sudden conversations where suddenly there's some eye-opening realizations and you're like, man, I should have listened to my gut, you know? Yeah, let me know how that plays out for you guys, because once again, maybe you guys will see this the day that the Mars-Uranus happens, you know, yesterday, today, tomorrow. Maybe you see it just after the new moon, but we are all going to have a better idea and picture of what is rapidly developing and growing as we get into the spring of next year. As always, I appreciate your guys' likes, your comments, your shares. If you guys want to support my channel, you can do this literally by just leaving me a comment, giving me a thumbs up, you know, especially if this is the first time you're watching my content. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear from you. I read all the comments. I can't always get back to everybody. And the comments are going to be especially colorful, I know, with like the Mercury, Saturn square, and some of the Mercury retrograde stuff that's coming up. So I respond to the comments that I feel like are going to be positive and good contributions to the comment section that are trying to help kind of keep the peace. So I appreciate everybody who leaves a comment regardless. 2 is I will be back. We're going to be talking on Tuesday about the full moon that we're going to be having in Gemini. I'm going to explain to you guys what's going on with all this weirdness with the miscommunication, and we're going to touch on that a little bit. But if you need some help throughout this week, come back to this video, listen to this, consider listening to the new moon in Scorpio video, consider joining my membership so you guys can support me that way as well. If you guys want to donate to my channel, I put my PayPal in the description below, or you can consider booking a session with me. I teach tarot and astrology. I do one-on-one sessions. I sell astrology calendars. There's so many things that we do at Beyond the Veil to try to help support and also teach people more about astrology and also how these astrological transits are affecting all of us collectively. I try to apply it to real events so you guys can see this make sense in real time. So if you would like to learn, consider checking out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. So that's all for me. Enjoy the rest of your guys' Sunday. Please try to stay zen and positive thoughts as we navigate these turbulent times in the week ahead. I'll see all of you guys back here on Tuesday. Until next time, take care.